Hello and welcome, my Aries Collective Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus sign. Welcome to your work, career, and vocation read for February and March 2021. I'm your reader, Angelo, Lyons, Mal for short, professional witch, professional intuitive, president of DrawingTheCircle Productions, the Archangel of Lyons, Angelo Lyons, but you can call me Mal. Hey, my Rams, how you doing? Yeah, it's that time of month again, but this time I mean the work, career, vocation reads, which I love doing. I do them for clients, not all the time. Everybody comes to me for, twin flame, soulmate, romance, all that stuff, but I am a Virgo for planets, second house, so plenty of people come to me for work, career, and vocation reads. A couple of pieces of business, though, before we jump into that, since it is work, career, and vocation. I am now doing tarot parties on my DrawingTheCircle Productions Facebook page. Yes, I am monetized on 2 different platforms. Can you imagine it? So if you enjoy me here and you're on Facebook, you actually don't have to be on Facebook to join the party. I don't know how they worked that out, but they did. But if you go to my Facebook page, I will of course have links down there in the description box. You can go to my page, and it's a Zoom format. It's only 10 people. I think I'm doing $19.99 for the party. It starts at usually 7:30. It goes till it goes, till everybody gets read. But bring a drink. You'll see it all in the event description how all of that works. Yeah, and I usually have a discount, like I don't know, 25% off 4 days before or something like that. Because it's fun, and we did our first one on Monday, and it was a hoot. So talk about work, career, and vocation. That's a lot of fun for me and helps pay the bills. Also, my book, Words of Grace, is hitting Kindle. We're shooting for a Virgo full moon in February for the launch date. So, of course, you'll be hearing about that as well. Why? Because work, career, and vocation are tricky stuff to balance, right? So that's what we're going to look at in this reading. 3 levels of power: work, career, vocation. What you do to survive, what your internal passion, hunger, and thirst is, and what your spiritual calling is. I'll explain that as I go. There is, however, a link in the description box, a video by Carolyn Myss, MYSS. We're starting with her archetype card deck. 3 cards down. There are only 9 cards in this spread. But explaining the 3 levels of power, and I highly recommend it because it's a lens through which a lot of things make sense in your life that might not have before you looked through that lens, right? So let's get up in this. As always, it is a general read. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. You like it. You want more, subscribe, right? Comment as you see fit. Otherwise, let's get up in this gig for you, my Aries. Please take a nice deep breath. The decks I read are always in the description box, right? Keep both feet on the floor if you can, and focus on your breath. I'm doing it so that I stay in the present moment, and I can clear my energy field with each inhale, and every exhale speak what comes through. So if you're doing that too, it's much easier to feel what resonates and leave what doesn't, because you're focusing on your breath and what I'm saying instead of what the mind wants to do with everything, right? And in the words of the Real Housewives of Tarot, you don't want a busted can of biscuits if it doesn't fit. Well, that's Al Bundy, but I love her so much. She's so great. If it doesn't fit, don't try and make it fit. It's just not your read, and it's not that big of a deal. There are a lot of people on planet Earth, right? So let's do this. Here we go. Please take a nice deep breath. Here we go. My collective pantheons of angels, archangels, goddesses, gods, ascended masters, and the higher selves of all involved. Work, career, vocation reads. Please, 3 levels of power for this Aries collective Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus sign. What is the dominant archetype at play, the soul power being developed for them February and March in their work? Lower 3 chakras, survival, intuition, how they pay the bills, right? The physical world, the literal world, their physical power, what's going on there. First card down. Let's do now for the Aries their career: heart, throat, third eye, and crown. Psychological power, mental power, emotional power, power of choice, inspiration, heart, third eye, crown, the interior world. What is it that they hunger and thirst for in their creativity, their creative intuition, February and March 2021. And of course that 8th chakra, their vocation, their calling, their higher purpose, all of this perhaps seen from the 8th chakra, the satellite point of view for this Aries. Visionary intuition, spiritual power, February, March 2021. Now, I do these overlapping because work, career, and vocation, particularly in this past year, has been a little bit of a slow and steady wins the race depending on what you do. And we have a very, very interesting set of archetypes here. Now, keep in mind, archetypes, it's not that you are these patterns, but that you incarnated with these patterns, and in your work, career, and vocation is how you are developing the soul powers connected to them. I will explain. You've got a survival archetype. There are 9 different families, right? I'm pretty familiar with all of them at this point, but we are looking at the wounded child archetype. Now, that might seem a little odd to have in your work unless you work with children or are working with wounded children in adult form. Everybody has the child archetype. Survival family is the child, the victim, the saboteur, and the prostitute. Everybody's got them. Corporations have them. Nations have them, right? So they're the trunk of the archetypal tree. If these child, victim, saboteur, and prostitute, the survival families are intact and maintained in a healthy way, then all the other branches of the archetypes, the artist, the healer, any other that you have throughout your lifetime will continue to grow and flourish, because it's how we learn how to survive since birth, right? Now, there's more than one child archetype in this deck. This is the wounded child, if you like, a sub-pattern within the, because everyone was a child, right? So everybody has this one. But the shadow attribute blames all dysfunctional relationships on childhood, on childhood wounds, resists moving on through forgiveness. So this is big about forgiveness, and the shadow child, regardless of its form, is never going to willingly want to forgive, right? But particularly in a work situation, now keep in mind, work is what you do to pay the bills. I don't in my case, and I'll explain that at some point, I'm sure, in this series, because really the work that I do, I'm a corporate president. I don't make money doing that. I make money in my career as a teacher and an artist and a healer. Right? You see what I'm saying? It's different. And my vocation is as a mystic, and I've managed to line all of them up. I do all 3 in one day, which isn't as easy and fun as it might sound. But the light attribute, this is what you're shooting for here, and I think this is where it really comes into the workplace. The light attribute awakens compassion and desire to serve other wounded children. Now, just that word serve, right? To serve other wounded children. And that does, I mean, maybe that's literal. I mean, the Lord knows what we've been through these past 10, 20 years, right? You know, if you really think of adolescence as 18 and below or whatever, because that's part of that too. The adolescent is part of the child archetype. You know, there's a lot of healing that could go on there, but then again, I have to say in my dating life, I have dated men, I won't say much older than me, but older than me, who are still wounded children, right? So in your work environment, to move towards that compassion. Now, what you have to back that up, and we're going to clarify all of these with other cards. I'll explain those when we get there. You've got the God archetype in the career. So that's powerful. It's not the divine family archetype, though. It is the masculine family of archetype. Everybody's got masculine and feminine archetypes in their sacred contracts. The shadow attribute, despotism and cruelty, using power to control people. Now, I'm familiar with that. I have the God archetype in there somewhere. Not so much a reason or a lifetime, but a season. It does come and go in me depending on what's going on, and particularly in my career. So I can relate to this to an extent. But the light attribute, benevolence and compassion. So now we've got compassion twice, both in the physical as well as the mental emotional world here for you. Recognizing the eternal force within yourself and others. And that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot for a career. So it's like, totally you could see the God archetype in a toxic boss, right? In the shadow, right? Controlling and manipulating people, right? Despotism, which is such an intense word. To be a despot, that's quite a bit. I need a respite from the despot. Despotism and cruelty, right? Now, if you ever had a boss like that, I have once. Well, there are subtle forms, right? There are definitely subtle forms of this. The passive aggression and two-facedness. Flip a coin, two-face. But with that light attribute, if this is really within you, in other words, if you had bosses like that, they were all along, they didn't know it, refining this power within you. You very well could be really in that place of allowing the eternal force to flow through your heart's passions. Right now, again, this is career. This is not relationship necessarily, but of course we have relationships with people that we work with or work for. That's why I don't work for anybody in this level. I work for the divine, right? You got a problem with me? Take it up with the head office. Approach carefully. Because I don't like complaints all that much. Drop it in the suggestion box, because that shoots right down into the underworld where they never see it. The companion archetype, however, in your 8th chakra, in your vocation, this is a healing family archetype. And what a healing family archetype it is. The shadow attribute, betrayal by misusing confidences. That doesn't always mean betraying the confidences, but if somebody confides in you and you use it to perhaps, right, use your power of that to manipulate people, you see what I'm saying, right? And that shadow child, blaming, oh, it's just the way I was treated. You know, it's all my childhood. It's all my childhood, with no willingness to forgive there. You can get the shadow of that. But the light attribute is so magnificent. I have the companion archetype. The light attribute, loyalty, tenacity, and unselfishness. Now you put that unselfishness together, right, with this benevolence and compassion and this willingness to serve wounded children in any way, shape, or form that they come to you. Maybe that's what, but you are still developing these powers within yourself. You got it? You got it? Work, career, vocation? Okay, so you think of that as really the crown chakra aspect of work, career, vocation, because you take your chakras into all three. But now we're going to look at heart, throat, third eye, crown, daughters of the moon, tarot, the yin stuff, right? The mental, emotional aspect, or at least how you are experiencing these personally. So please take a nice deep breath. Yeah, my goddesses of fire and the sign of Aries. Please, I need 3 cards for this Aries collective Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus sign. Now, by the way, just to hit the pause for a moment, I've noticed that when certain things happen unexpected when I'm doing this, they usually have symbolic content to it because of the prayers I do in the morning. And my contact lens in my left eye is doing cartwheels. I'm going to say, because that's my feminine eye, make sure you are seeing there. That must have been it just stopped, right? That makes sure that you are really keeping an emotional eye on things, a yin eye, which I think is interesting that we're doing these cards. So one more time, please, let me say the prayer and I'll get you these on the table. Please breathe. Yeah, there's something your divine feminine energy really wants you to see. So please, my goddesses of fire in the sign of Aries, 3 cards, we'll put them down face down for this Aries collective Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus sign. Work, career, vocation. Please clarify, what is their experience, heart, throat, third eye, crown, with that wounded child in their work? You saw what it was. I didn't. I have no idea what it was. I think it's the Aquarius card. I'm not sure. Oh, and we've got flippers coming out. No, that's why I have very clear contracts with my guides and my masters and all that. Please, please clarify that. These are reversed. That God card, yep, that one goes there. And please clarify heart, throat, third eye, crown for this Aries collective, that companion archetype in their vocation. So wounded child in the work area, physical power, lower 3 chakras, with the Aquarius card. Now I'm going to say this could be your experience of a person, whether or not they're actually an Aquarius or not. I mean, you don't always know that in the workspace. But certainly the energy of it could have more to do with you in terms of that 11th house, interacting with the world, how you interact with the world. Social media is very Aquarian, right? Seeing the larger picture, really maybe even reaching out, charity work, humanitarianism, right? So this really, if we're going to say if I were to take this really into consideration, even though it is an air sign, air energy, this would be the Queen of Swords, the Aquarius card. Then we're really feeling that compassion, right? That compassion and desire to serve and in the work thing. But I really feel like that's inside of you. And look, chances are if you're getting readings and stuff like that, you're probably a little bit more into the holistic, energetic, healing aspect of life. So if you've done any inner child work, which I highly recommend, but, buyer beware. There's all sorts of different ways into that. The clearest, simplest, and most powerful I've come across so far is the work of Matt Kahn, who says, think of your heart chakra as your inner child and talk to it. It's not a healing technique. It's a relationship, right? So maybe you've done work of that kind similar, or maybe this is literally quite what you do for a living. For some of you, that's going to be true, that you deal with wounded children, either in, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually wounded, however that is, as well as adults that had those same wounds, but perhaps still carry them into childhood. It's interesting. For the God archetype, you've got the Scorpio card, Hecate. So you got two queens, the Queen of Swords and the Queen of Cups. I'm kind of feeling like there is some darkness and some depth here. Scorpio, definitely a card of transformation. Again, you might be interacting with somebody with that 8th house, but that means that there's just hidden stuff going on, right? Or that you are keeping this to yourself. This could very much be about your spiritual path. Plenty of people work jobs, right, in order to pay the bills, survive, put food on the table and all of that, so that they can follow their career. Your career might very well be a hidden one that has to do with this God power archetype, right? Benevolence and compassion, recognizing the eternal force within yourself and others, which is definitely Scorpio. I mean, this is mystical stuff now, if we want to really go there, if you really want to go there. But keep in mind that Scorpio energy can also be hidden despotism and cruelty, using power to control people, and that can be done from the shadows, what we do in the shadows. I can't wait till it comes back. I miss Nandor. I'm not ashamed of that. Come on, guys, right? So that hidden thing, not saying you're a vampire necessarily, there's a vampire archetype card in the Carolyn Mace deck, did not come out. But I am saying perhaps there are some manipulations behind the scenes here that might be cruel and despotic. Now, if that is not you, if that is somebody you are interacting with, they're teaching you how to use this power for yourself, benevolence and compassion. Now, can you recognize the eternal force within yourself and them? What do you mean? Like, well, we are all one, right? Unity, consciousness, and all that jazz. Harmony and understanding. Everybody wants the Age of Aquarius. They don't want to pay the piper, though. The Piper Halliwell. For the companion, you've got the Two of Blades. To me, the analysis card, it's literally what's said on the card. It's seeing things. I mean, I get why people call this perhaps a crossroad card or an indecision card, but this is element of air. This is gathering data, right? The fencers, right? If you've ever watched sword play, in the literal kind, you pigs, then we're really, really looking at that back and forth of the mind, but perhaps strategizing, right? In that sense of like chess or any other game of strategy. Obviously, fencing is a bit more on your feet than just on the board. Find your foil, tin or otherwise. You really don't want a tin foil if you're fencing, from what I understand. Never done it myself. Well, not that way. There's another meaning for fencing, too. Selling shit. Fencing it. But I do feel like it is that strategy of like, so if I do that and they do that and they do that, but this is in your spiritual power, your 8th chakra, with the companion archetype. The companion archetype is not always necessarily the sidekick, but it is a healing family archetype. So this could very much be about if you are experiencing conflict in your work and or your career, right? Dealing with wounded children, yourself included perhaps, maybe it's triggering that stuff, then this could really be you're thinking about, maybe even contemplating gathering information about, to which of these relationships, first of all, which one of them are companion relationships. I'd start there, right? Not every person in your life is a companion, right? There are friends, there are families, but, I know who my companions are, and it would be nice to have one in lover form, but honestly, they're so much better in the work career vocation, right? Even friends, like work friends and stuff like that, where there's really that bond there. But again, the misuse of confidences, either by betraying them outright or betraying them because they know something about you or you know something about them. And you know, if there really is damage going on here, if there are wounded children being wounded because of some despotic force in the shadow, well, then your job really here is about bringing in that benevolence and compassion, since the word is said twice in your work and in your career. But interesting, in your vocation, right? That unselfishness, that loyalty, that, what's that other word there? Tenacity, right? For you to kind of make your way through this, to bring this into alignment. Now, that's all how that feels, and, you know, heart, third eye, crown. Mythic Tarot, let's look at what this looks like on the outside. Now, when I started doing these types of readings online, I began to realize it's not just something to be aware of outside of yourself, it could be how you appear as well, and that's a general read for you, so keep that in mind. So chakra coordinates, lower three chakras, root, sacrum, solar plexus, what this appears, feels like, looks like in the outside world for these three, please. Which is the point of work, career, vocation. They can all manifest in physical form in different ways. Like I said, I've got mine all lined up. I get the inspiration from the mystic. It comes down into the artist, teacher, healer, and gets produced as the corporate president producer, right? But not everybody does it that way. How many artists' career are doing other things to pay the bills, you know? All right, here we go. Breathe. Alrighty, my gods of fire in the sign of Aries, please. 3 cards in clarity. For this Aries collective sun, moon, rising Venus sign, this just perked up all of a sudden. Keep in mind they're saying Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, the child. So this might very much be about moving forward in a way, but also dealing with the vibrations and the patterns of some toxicity here. I hope you're a people person, right? Because it does feel like with 2 court cards, if those are not literally going on inside of you, then you're really being influenced, affected by that. So please, my gods of Aries and the sign, my gods of fire and the signs of Aries, what does this look like on the outside for this Aries collective sun, moon, rising Venus sign in their work? That wounded child with the Aquarius card, the Queen of Cups. In their career, the God archetype with Scorpio, Hecate, the Crone of Cups, the Queen of Cups. This is what that looks like. What does this look like in their vocation? The Companion archetype, 2 of Swords, 2 of Blades, analysis, back and forth, should I, shouldn't I, what if I do this, what if I do that? What does that look like on the outside for them, February and March 2021? Let's find out. A 1, a 2, a 3. 3. Okay, you got 2 fire cards and a water card. Now, for starters, I just love that you got the Aries card in your work. What I love about the Mythic Tarot and Daughters of the Moon, there is no vagaries about what the sign is. Literally a ram, right, with this King of Wands. So you are being authentic. Now, I would say, remember what we said, Aries, first sign of the zodiac, the child. Pisces, last sign of the zodiac, the elder, and there's the journey in between. Really keep an eye on your child archetype. I'm going to say, if it has been wounded and there is unprocessed stuff there that has not been forgiven, it's going to play itself out in your work. Now, like I said, maybe in a way that's great, right? It's like you've been through it, you've done the healing, you have that compassion, you have that understanding, even if it's somebody who's really annoying and acting childish. Really, if you want to take the spectrum from lead to gold of the child archetype, regardless of its sub-pattern, it's childlike, childish. Pee Wee Herman, Dalai Lama. Right. Did I reverse that? I think I might have reversed. Childish, childlike. Sorry, childish is the lead side. Pee Wee Herman, believe me, it doesn't matter what age somebody is. That childish, regardless of the sub-pattern, child archetype can come up. But childlike is that innocence. The child archetype is the guardian of safety and innocence, right? So that forgiveness part of it, when a child feels safe, it'll forgive everything. Right? Because it sees with fresh eyes, that innocence. So keep that in mind. I mean, this may very much be about, for some of you, I feel like this might be actually for a lot of you, that the child inside of you, if it has really been wounded, is afraid to be on a larger stage, Aquarius. The internet, right? The interaction with the world, how you interact with the world, how you see the larger picture of that. So, you know, the thing I always say is that child is worthy of having its voice heard. Just don't let it drive, right? Don't let it make your big decisions and changes. But that's why it's a relationship. Just like if you had a literal child. Some of you have literal children, right? You know when they're tantruming, when they're afraid, because usually they're connected, right? Fear and the anger and all of that. And usually it's not just one thing either. It builds up in the immune system and the nervous system, and unless we cope with it, it takes us over. But inflammation, right? All of that fire. So you might have an inflamed inner child here, a wounded inner child that really needs your love, but absolutely is affecting your output in the world. Maybe afraid it's going to get wounded again if it opens its mouth. Aries, you're impulsive. That child might also want to burn down the world, right? Which is interesting to then make such not a huge drastic shift here, but an interesting one. You've got the Four of Wands with this God archetype. With the Scorpio card, I do really feel like in your career, this God archetype is really probably more about, I won't just say your spiritual life, but your psycho-spiritual life. Psycho, not like that, but your psychological healing process and that benevolence and your compassion. I mean, you could very easily be a benevolent and compassionate spiritual force in your life, but that's not what you're doing for work. Or maybe you are, right? Again, they're the general reads. I do these for clients all the time, right? Particularly when they're looking at changing directions, changing careers. But a lot of times what I find is what they're doing is they're talking about shifting their earning power or their focus from work into career, right? To go for the thing that really lights them up. I can't divorce this Scorpio card from this deep mystical feeling, right? That feeling of benevolence and compassion because you have felt this pain. I have to say, again, if you're watching readings like this and if you've been attracted to my channel, which doesn't tell you necessarily what you want to know, but what you need to know, this might very well be that Four of Wands, that commitment, that engagement that you have to your spiritual, mystical, psychological, whatever that is, healing practice. You might have a passion for it that allows you to have compassion. You get that, like a passion for your spirituality. But with that Scorpio card, you might not be talking about it. Plenty of people don't. Look, I may kid the YouTube readers that do what I call the Bob Fosse magic to do hands readings. They don't want their faces on camera. I understand that. I mean, I don't mind getting fatutzed for you every day and, you know, picking out the outfit and doing the hair and putting on the pressed powder and the mascara and eyeliner. That's fine. I've got an artist background. I understand that, right? Why not keep your anonymity if that's what's working for you, if that's what you feel? Oh, interesting, but if there's a child that's afraid of being wounded as a result of that. See what I mean? That's a really good example of this, actually. This could be about going public in your work in some way, and why wouldn't you be afraid of that? But I would certainly recommend the work of Brené Brown, daring and all of that stepping into the arena isn't easy, but the people who are making the comments never do step into the arena, so they don't really know. Yeah, drag race. Let's not drag the drag race community, but, you know, a lot of these people who never put on... I've never put on a false lash, mind you, so I don't comment on that. I just think a lot of the boys are cute out of drag. That rosé is something else. Young enough to be my child. Speaking of which, here we've got this companion archetype here, 8th chakra, 2 of blades, and I will say I'm getting indecision. Indecision for me is usually my 2 of wands, not the 2 of blades, but there is this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it's covered by the 8 of cups. I think you are not just walking away from this situation, or at least that's kind of what it looks like right now, not just pulling back, going down into your own underworld, really going in to do your own work spiritually. This is Psyche, bride of the god of love, Eros, son of Aries and Aphrodite, right? They're already married, but she's got to run some errands for her mother-in-law in order for her to get in her good graces. So she's going into the underworld after doing some other nearly impossible tasks that she pulls off to get her some beauty cream. I don't know, I think if I had a girl that wanted to marry one of my sons, I would send her into the underworld as well, just to see if she could handle it, because married to one of my sons... My sons are cats, though, so, you know, I just hope she's got good wrist action for that kitty litter scoop every day. You get what I'm putting down here? You get what this is? You are really contemplating walking away from something. Now, this could be walking away from a type of work that doesn't fulfill you because your vocation that companion. This is like being a companion with the divine. That this would be great for a counselor, but it has its shadow there. Like if you're doing any kind of spiritual counseling, psychological counseling, it's really a thing. You need to go deep to really make sure that you do not betray the confidences, particularly of your clients. I took vows of confidentiality, and vows involve the gods. Sorry, they just do. They just do. Don't talk to me about blood oaths. People break those left, right, and center. But a vow of any kind involves the gods. You don't break your vows. And what is a promise, right? Promise, oath, and vow. Eau de toilette, cologne, perfume. To really keep in mind here, I think you've got more power than you realize here. And if you betray your confidences, it's going to be cruel. It's going to be cruel. I also feel like this has happened to you. And that's why to really do that inner child work, talk to that wounded child. Has your wounded child ever been wounded by shadow gossip? Meaning that everybody else was talking about it and you were the last to find out. Because the thing is, if this 11th house is really about the internet, or at least a larger stage, how you interact with the world, it's going to be much faster than that. So tricky. But my book, Words of Grace, coming out in Kindle. Dylan Martinson is my Kindle editor. I don't know how to do that. I needed to get a millennial, and the gods sent me a brilliant and beautiful one to do it. And we're so simpatico that way. But I also have to say, whatever concerns he has, and he hasn't had that many, I know that he's an Aries, that there's that child in there. So I just encouraged him. I'm like, look, kid, throw everything you got at it, and I get final edit, but I don't want to. And he's also working full time, so it's on other things, right? So I don't want him to get inflamed. But very easy. In fact, we kept moving the publish date so that, because not that I'm putting myself in this reading, but I'm the president in this one. I'm the one who gets to. I can be despotic and cruel, or benevolent and compassionate. And I feel like if that relates to you, you might be in a boss situation here. But that you are, there's so many different ways to read this, but that's what it's a general read. Look, if you want to book me, it is easy as pie. Find me on Facebook. Find me on social media. I got Zoom. I think, honestly, Facebook Messenger video calls are the clearest. They're rarely interrupted by, technical stuff. I love doing those. And it's a real conversation, and it's webcam, and it's face-to-face, and I dig it, right? So if you want to go deeper in this, I'm easy enough to find. My info's in the box below, or just if you don't have Facebook, I understand the millennials and the Generation Z, I think. Can someone text me when these things change? I finally heard LGBTQ+. I'm like, oh, thank God. Just don't drag me, because I don't know all of the letters in it, right? Plus, so much easier. Thank you, whoever came up with that. But very that. Just find me online. I will be glad to read you and look at this, because really, despotism and cruelty, that's something you want to watch out for. So, may the Aries collective, Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus sign be blessed with all that they need in their work, career, vocation, February, March 2021, that they may, really get the clarity they need, going inside of themselves, pulling back, going deep, really feeling their emotions, perhaps walking away from something and deeper into this analysis, or really seeing this as clearly as they can with that companion archetype in place. So in their career, they can be benevolent and compassionate, recognizing the eternal force within themselves and everyone else around them, and maybe keeping that to themselves, feeling that, and feeling very at home with that, very stable with that Four of Wands. And in a way, there's something pleasurable about that, so that they could bring that into their work with the wounded child, their own. This could absolutely be talking about literally inner child work in this position, but maybe dealing with that within others in their community, within their friends, within their coworkers, within their corporation. And perhaps they do have to take a leadership ability here. Maybe they need to put forth that alchemy, that it can be done, to teach by example, to show by example, to serve by example, with that light attribute, awakening compassion and desire to serve other wounded children, opening the learning path of forgiveness for them, at least demonstrating it for everyone, and really helping all of us on planet Earth with the child archetype, which is all of us, for the well-being of all. So would it be, and so it is. Lovely reading, Aries. Look, if you liked it, hit the thumbs up. Circulates the video, helps other people see it. I don't know how it works. I just know that it does, right? If you want more, subscribe. My numbers go up and down every single day, so I'm like, whatever. It's not about the numbers anymore. I'm not prostituting myself for numbers ever again. At least not on YouTube. And no, I do not have an OnlyFans page. What if my mother saw it? That would be a nightmare. And please feel free to comment if you enjoyed yourself. I love you all so much, my Aries. Wishing you all the very, very best and the very, very blessed in your work, career, and vocation. February and March 2021, my darlings. Hail. Farewell, and blessed be.